The next element we have to do is the shell. So if I bring this one forward here, this is where we did that, where we carved out the middle. So I'll go over here to the one we're working on. And, well, I want to talk about this. So the shell tool, let's move this around like that. And if I come down here, I pick the shell tool. And if I were to just pick this face, remember what I was saying, that the shell tool, don't necessarily think of it like a seashell, which is kind of what I'm going to do right here, right now. But think of it as remove face and leave behind thickness. Okay. You can also do the inside and the outside and some other thickness. I don't want to talk about those right now. I just want to talk about the inside thickness. So if I change this to, for example, 0.1 inch, what's going to happen is it's going to remove this face, and it's going to leave 0.1 inch behind on the inside of this, the other side, and the bottom. So I hit OK, and we get this kind of a cup. Right? So now if I hit this and I were to pick this face, now it's going to wrap all the way around. So think about this. So it wraps all the way around here, all the way around, and it doesn't get this section, it doesn't get that section, so it's going to leave this one behind and leave a thickness. It's going to leave this behind and leave a thickness, but it's going to actually remove everything else. Can you see what we're going to end up with? It's kind of interesting. See that? So if you had this part laying out here, or if you had this in CAD and you said, to somebody else, how, go about making this, they probably wouldn't jump straight to, hey, I'm going to thicken this up and do it with a shell. But it's a really good tool for that, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go here, and I'm going to remove, here, just for clarity, I'm going to delete the shell. And then what I will do is I'll start over, hit the shell tool, and I'm going to hit this right here. Now this face, when I pick this, it has propagation on. It has tangency propagation, so it means that it flows all the way around through here to the other side, but not up here at the top. And so we'll leave it at 0.1, and we'll hit OK. Actually, I think it's a quarter, because see that? That's too thin. So we'll hit that again, and we'll say 0.25, enter. There we go. Then the next part of this is also a little bit different. I need to hollow this section out here, but I need to have the angle on it that we have. Let's get this a little bit extra forward here. I need this chamfer right here, but I need it hollow. So what I want to explain here is why there's a particular order of operations in building this. If I went, well, okay, let's go ahead and shell this, because I want to have that little bit of hollow, and then maybe I think I'm going to add the chamfer afterwards. I'll go here to the shell. I'll just do one side, and I want to make this 0.1. Okay, again, don't worry about that up there. So I've got this edge, and now I want to put a chamfer on it. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to change this a little bit to make this a little bit more dramatic. 0.05, so it's a little bit extra thin. And then I come over here with the chamfer tool. And so see what's going to happen here is I'm going to chamfer this side, but just because you chamfer one side doesn't mean that you chamfer this other side. So a lot of bizarre things could happen. Most probably not good. So I'm going to say that this is 0.25, so it's the whole width of the thing. I hit preview, and you can see it's going to go up there like that. No, let's not do that. Let's go 0.2, so it'll be a little bit shorter. Preview, right? Then I'll hit OK, and now look what we get. This is an impossibility. So you see that this angle right here is sticking out past the chamfer. And if you think about that, you'll see why I'm saying that that's not possible. Other programs, you'll do this Fusion 360, it'll actually leave a hole right here, usually, as far as I recall. So that's not good. So in order to get this to do what I need to do the chamfer first, and then when I do the shell, remember I said it removes faces, but it leaves thickness behind on all the remaining. Then I'll have this nice little clean offset there. So Let's go ahead and get rid of this, and we'll get rid of that shell too. Okay, so now it's solid. So now I come in here and I will hit chamfer, and I'll pick this one and this one. I do want it to 0.25 this time because I wanted this whole thickness. And notice again, there's this propagation. Even says right here, tangency propagation. Remember when I did the shell here and I said propagation? Because there's a tangency right here, I pick this edge and it just automatically flows around. But right here, this is not tangent to this, so it stops. Okay, it's just the way that it works by default. You can change that. So I'm going to leave that as is and hit OK. 0.25. Hit OK. It was a little too thick. So now you see we get this. Then what I can do though is now I can use the shell tool, and I can remove this. I'll just do one side for a second here, and I'll leave it at 0.05. It's actually 0.1, but I just want to show you here that it doesn't matter how thin it is. That's interesting, right? It doesn't matter how thin it is. That thickness right here, if I click on this and I just kind of rotate it around, you can see that blue line in there. I have no concern about this being too thin right here. I got a nice even wall thickness. So I'm going to go over here and delete this and start over because that was a lot of talk about things. So I want to do this from scratch. So I go to shell, and I'm going to pick this face. I'm going to pick this face, but I also want this over the top. Okay. And think about this carefully. See if you can see what I'm going to get at here. If I were to do this as is, it would shell all this out and leave behind these faces right here and add thickness on the inside. Can you see, can you imagine that, this, get this out of the way, this face right here, it's going to be hollow inside, and this is going to be like a little wall standing up here. Like this. It's not what we want. So I'm going to double click this, and I'm going to add this face and that face in there, and that sort of seems like we're going to dissolve this whole thing away. But if you look underneath here, I have a face that hasn't been selected, so that will get thickness added to it, and I'll end up with the part that I'm after. It's kind of confusing. So there's a lot going on here, a lot of stuff that we just talked about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it again, and I'm going to delete the chamfer, and I'm going to do this all over again. So matter of fact, let's get rid of the shell. No conversation, just operations. So I need to pick a shell tool, and I'm going to pick this. Tangency propagation is going to wrap around here. I need this to be 0.25 thick. I hit OK. That leaves that wall thickness behind. I need to put a shell in here, but before I do that, I need to make a chamfer. So I hit my chamfer tool, and I'm going to pick this edge right there, and I'm going to pick that edge right there. 0.25. Hit OK. So that gets that chamfer. Then I go to my shell, and I pick this feature. I pick that, and that, and make this 0.1 and hit enter. And that's what we need, okay? So I'm going to stop here because that was a lot of information. Play around with this. Try different shapes and try messing around with the shell tool and see how you do.